What's up, my brothers from another mother? So today's video is going to be about the pressure that young men get to get married, settle down, have kids from their family. It often comes from cultural reasoning, not always, but that's been my experience, for the most part. So let's dive right into this. And what I'll do is I'll show you at the end what the best way is to reach out to me, to contact me if you want to make a topic suggestion or a request. This particular one came through the Reach platform. And it's completely anonymous, so I'm comfortable with sharing this information on the video publicly. So he says, "Hey Richard, I've got issues with my parents. They keep demanding me to get married and have kids. We're Chinese, so starting a family with kids is very important to them culturally. They're getting old and I don't want to regret not spending time and loving them. But it's so difficult being with them. I'm from New York City in the States, and I've been traveling around the world, living abroad for the past 5 years. I'm 30 years old and financially free. What's your perspective on this and what are my options?" All right, so let's dive right into this. Well, let me start it off by telling you a story, because I like storytelling when it comes to my videos by sharing experiences. Some are mine, some are men that I've coached, others are my friends. Let's use the experience of, we'll call him Dick. And Dick was engaged to get married, and he called off the wedding about 3 or 4 months before the wedding. Now, Dick's fiance decided that there should be some conversations had. She wanted to salvage the upcoming nuptials. She was about 30. I'm trying to think, 33 or 34 at the time, I believe. So, she started to recognize that she basically had a case of baby rabies. And for those of you that don't know, that's where women start paying very close attention to the sand in the hourglass running out. If they have the intention to have kids, they know that they have to do it at a certain point. So this was pressure coming from a different point, but I'm going to get to the end of this in a second, which will be very relevant. Anyway, wedding was called off by Dick. Wasn't happy with the way things were going. Saw a lot of red flags. She ended up talking to his mother and family and convinced them to convince him to go through with the wedding. Well, they got married, had a couple kids, and a few years after that, they divorced. It was a nightmare. The red flags that occurred at the beginning prior to the nuptials turned into giant red fireworks displays. It turned into a complete nuclear apocalypse. It was very, very tough for this guy, and I really sympathize with him. So don't be a dick. Don't get yourself in a scenario where you're forced into nuptials, settling down, have kids, getting married. A few things that you got to consider, first of all, is, do you like kids? Do you want to have kids? If that's something that you like and that you want, which you didn't actually indicate in your message to me, so I'm going to guess that you're indifferent. It sounds like you're more along the lines of placating your parents, pleasing them. You don't want them to go through the autumn years of their lives without the love of grandchildren, maybe. And I get the pressure that cultural norms will put on people. And it's not just Asian culture, it's all kinds of cultures all the way around the world that will pressure their children to settle down and have children and have grandchildren. And let's talk about some of the reasons behind that. There's genetic reasoning. Passing on your seed. The DNA continues on, the lineage continues on, the name continues on, so to speak. So there's men that have a very strong desire to do that. There's others that don't. Kids are kids are good and bad. Let's be honest. Like, I'm a father to an 8-year-old girl. I'm also divorced. I chose to marry the wrong person. It didn't work out. At the end of the day, everything's okay now, but there's some, there's a lot of difficulty. So kids come with a lot of responsibility. Where do you begin? Let me put it to you this way. Your own children, I think most guys will agree, and comment below, gentlemen, those that have children, your own children, even though you love them and they're really the most beautiful things, and they just light up your lives quite often, are also a complete nightmare. They can be very hard to deal with. Anything from the early stages where you're changing, nearly fluorescent green or yellow diapers that smell so bad you nearly vomit in your mouth, to the sleepless nights, to the problems they have in school, to the extracurriculars, to the sleepless nights, to fewer sexual encounters with your spouse, partner, wife, whatever your situation is. They're taxing, and they're little energy vampires. But here's the thing. They're your little energy vampires, and you're passing your seed and your lineage and your DNA on to future generations. They're also a source of incredible joy. They are, like the hugs and kisses and the sweet things that they do are, top shelf. So you got to really ask yourself, are you the kind of person that likes kids and wants to have kids? Because they're a lot of work and they're very expensive. I think the last stat I saw on it, I can't remember when it was, probably a number of years ago, something like the cost to raise a child until they leave your home is about $250,000. I would imagine it's probably more than that now, maybe close to $500,000. So they're not only draining financially, they're also draining emotionally. They're draining physically. But there's a lot of people that get a tremendous amount of reward and, how can I put it? Satisfaction out of that part of their life. So that being said, that's the first consideration. The second thing is, if you want to have kids, don't do it because your parents want to have kids. Don't be forced into it. Don't be like Dick and get yourself in a scenario where, you're with somebody whose eggs are drying up and they force you into it and it doesn't work out. Or because your parents want you to do it, they might, I don't know, maybe they have a definite timeline. Maybe one of them is terminally ill. I don't know. Maybe their health is fading. I don't know. But just because somebody else has an agenda, and this goes for all things in life, by the way, it just doesn't go for your parents telling you it's time to settle down and have children. Just because somebody else has an agenda, don't make it your agenda. It's your fucking life. You're a grown-ass adult. You should be able to choose to do what you want to do when you want to do it and how you want to do it, and not be forced to the confines of somebody else's timeline. And other people's timeline is very selfish. I'll tell you this, I've seen, I'll give you a really good example. There's all kinds of spectrum of comments that come up in my videos depending on what I'm talking about. I remember one time somebody chimed in and he said, I've been taking care of my grandmother lately, and, he's a guy, sounded like he was in about his 30s. I've been taking care of my grandmother lately. She's in the autumn years of her life, and she told me explicitly, don't spend any long-term time with a woman. They're like animals without a tail. And this was his sage advice. And my response to him was simply, you've got to consider the source. You've always got to consider the source when it comes to information. And what I pointed out to him is, you got a grandmother that's in the elder years of her life. Her husband's not around anymore, probably in care, palliative care, I don't know. And it's a selfish statement for her to make simply because she knows that if his time is taken up with something else, it doesn't matter if it's a woman or a hobby or anything, she'll probably have less access to him. So yes, women are difficult to be around. We all know this. We all this is something that we've talked about before. That's cool. But we've got somebody here that's traveling the world, financially successful, and now his family's telling him, it's time for you to settle down and have children. So when are you going to find a good woman? We've all heard this story. Well, not all of us, but a lot of us have heard this story. And guys, I want to hear your feedback in the comments below on how you deal with, that comment from family. I think most of my audience is fairly red-pilled and woke and has a capacity to make choices and decisions for themselves. But I get that when the stress comes from family or the origin of the pressure is overwhelming because you have obligations to family through cultural reasons and the like and such. But I tell guys often this when I'm doing my Clarity one-on-one coaching on the phone when they're stuck at impasses in life. And this is a soundbite that I'll use again in this video, is as far as we know, this is the only life that we get. When we die, that's it. Let's say we've got an infinite timeline. You've only got so many beats in your heart. You've only got so many breaths in your lung. And then when it's over, it's over. And there's a lot of theories out there from mostly, religious groups. I mean, not science, obviously, but mostly all religious affiliations claim there's some sort of afterlife. Doesn't matter what it is. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Let's just assume that there isn't, and this is the only one that we get. Don't you want to make it a good life? Don't you want to make it one that you've chosen to run yourself? Don't you want to make it a life that you've led? Why would you want to lead somebody else's life and play by their rules? That's probably the biggest question that I would ask. ask yourself what the motivation is behind their advice and their encouragement for you to make a big change. All right, so one other thing I forgot to mention, I was just editing the video and I want to add this in because I think it's extremely valuable and worthwhile clipping in here. If you're 30 years old, you don't have to have children at 30 years old. You can have kids as a guy at 35, even very safely at 40. So you've got time on your hands. So don't let their timeline or their agenda become your agenda. It's different for a woman. Okay, if you're a 30-year-old woman, you're going to want to figure something out soon because, you know, the reproductive window that women have to have kids, I mean, they're most fertile. It's best to have kids for them in their early 20s. When they leave it into the 30s and 40s, especially into their 40s, there's all kinds of complications that can come out of it. But if you're a guy and you're 30, you got plenty of time on your hands. So just understand that you do have some space, some wiggle room there, okay? I'll carry on with the rest of the video. Because make no mistake, it is a huge change to your life. You lose a lot of autonomy because you've got responsibility to a wife and children now, and other family obligations and her family obligations as well. So you're going to lose a lot of autonomy. You're going to lose the ability to maneuver. You're currently traveling the world, doing what you want when you want. If you get tired of staying in Thailand, then let's go to Australia. If you get tired of Australia, go to Hawaii for a bit. I know a lot of financially independent entrepreneurs that travel freely, willingly, and easily because they have the ability to maneuver. I also know a couple of them that do it with small children or a small child. So it can be done if you find the right partner. I think at the end of the day, ask yourself, are you doing this for you or for them? One. Two, if it's something that you want, you need to properly vet the right woman if you're going to get into a long-term relationship. Just don't rely on cultural reasons or them introducing you to somebody that might be a good girl or the one. Read Sean T. Smith's book, The Tactical Guide to Women. It's basically a guide that will help you vet women, help you sort through the riffraff for low drama, high virtue women, so you can skip through anybody that might be a problem for you in the future. There's a link in all my videos to my recommended reading list. So if you just go down in the description, you'll find it there. Recommended reading that all guys should read, basically. So you can check that out. But I hope that answers your question. I kind of went a little bit deeper in this one than what I would normally go in these reach responses. So I want you to get as much value as possible, and of course the rest of my audience to get a ton of value out of this as well. I said at the end of the video I'd let you know how you can make video topic requests or suggestions. Again, reach.me/Richard Cooper is how you can reach me on this platform. This is probably the cheapest way to ask me a question, just $30. The other way is if you want one-on-one coaching on the phone, clarity.fm/Richard Cooper, and you can book my time over the phone. And it's basically billed by the minute. So anything you're stuck on, I can walk you through, and I often solve most people's problems within one call. There's not many people that I do long-term coaching of. And of course, if you're a long-term viewer and you like my stuff, why not become a Patreon? Help support the creation of work for the stuff that I do on YouTube now. It is just Patreon/Entrepreneurs of Cars. And again, all the links for those things are below if you want to get more involved in the community. We have a private Facebook page where it's all guys helping each other out with stuff that we're stuck on, whether it has to do with women, work, money, it doesn't matter. And there's all kinds of perks and tiers there, so check that out. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you for your topic requests. Anonymous, don't know who you are, and that adds some value and sheds some light for you. See you guys later. Peace.